The Viewpoint is live now.
Months of Kashmir being on the boil. 32 civilians killed in army crossfire. One definitive image which sparked global outrage and pitted the Indian army against the rest. But the army chief remains defiant, dares stone pelters to fire weapons instead. Bullets for stone pelters. Has the army chief hurt Kashmiri sentiments?
Good evening, namaskar, adab. Welcome to the center which actually bats for India. This is not a program where we believe in making outrageous comments only and only for the sake of so-called soaring ratings and lie to you and be dishonorable with you. That's not I've ever done in my life, and I don't intend to do that. This is another platform which believes in provoking a false sense of nationalism, a false sense of who's an ideal Indian. But this is the platform where viewers and guests, you, me, all my panelists, we're all free to take any position that we wish to. That's why this program is India's viewpoint. It's not just my viewpoint, it's not just an individual's viewpoint. Before we come to our lead story tonight, I want all of you to look at the reality of a state which will forever be ignored by the so-called great nationalists, television studio warriors. They'll never look at what's happening in India in any other place other than the LOC and Kashmir. But on Viewpoint, each night, I bring you face to face with the reality of India, which is completely being ignored in this absolutely crazy, chaotic and maniacal race for soaring ratings for some sections of our media. We're going to be talking about a state which has been hailed as a model state. It's a state where everything that could go wrong is actually going wrong. Yet the ruling party at the center would like us to believe nothing is wrong. Chaliye, ek minute ke liye wo bhi maan lete hain. But then how will you explain this? While women are being raped, molested in broad daylight on video cameras, people are being murdered on flashy expressways, in India's biggest state of Uttar Pradesh, guess what is being done by a state minister? State Minister Swati Singh. There she is. Look at how happy she is, smiling, beaming. She's happily posing for pictures while inaugurating. You know what? This is not some government center. This is not some MNREGA scheme center. This is a beer bar, folks. This is a bar which is being inaugurated by a minister in Adityanath Yogi's government. Now, Chief Minister Adityanath Yogi says he is open to the idea of absolute, total, 180 degrees alcohol prohibition in his state. His own minister, Swati Singh, goes not just alone, by the way, she goes with the families of superintendents of police. Ab saab bataiye, 2 districts ke SPs are accompanying Madam Minister with their own family members for the inauguration of a beer bar. And guess what happens? The moment the media picks up the story, the Chief Minister's office gets cracking, questions are raised against the minister, and lo and behold, that ribbon that you saw, which was being cut, the bar itself has been cut down to size. The bar has now been shut down. That's the reality of India, which the so-called nationalists will never ever tell you, which I, on Viewpoint, shall always ensure that you are brought to terms with. Let's move on then to the other story, which has also been picked up by the media and is certainly generating quite a bit of debate. Army Chief General Bipin Rawat's comments justifying the use of human shield on one hand, and then, may I say, almost threatening the citizens of Kashmir. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my lead story on the program tonight. Army Chief is challenging stone pelters in Kashmir. He wants them to use weapons. He doesn't want them to throw stones. Army Chief is saying, "Dam hai to let's deal with the gun. Dam hai to gun dikhao. If you show me the gun, then I'll tell you what the Indian Army is all about," is the view of our esteemed Army Chief. He says his boys will then know how to respond if people who are hitting at them are using guns. Our headline number 2 on the program. Many, even on my Periscope feed, which I began just a short while back, Many are praising the move which has been made, the words which have been used by the Indian Army Chief. What about their human rights record in Kashmir? By the way, the human rights record that much abused. People hate to use that word, don't they? The nationalist way, they don't want us to think about this word human rights. They believe it's a bad word. This is the track record. 32 civilians killed in army crossfire in the last 11 months since Hizbul Mujahideen commander Burhan Wani was killed by our brave jawans. Our headline number 3. What's actually going on the ground? On the ground in Kashmir, 250 terrorists still active. In South Kashmir itself, which is supposed to be the epicenter of the valley's violence, there are over 90 homegrown terrorists. Barely a dozen, if not more, foreign terrorists, but majority of these terrorists are all homegrown boys who sometimes get assisted by these stone pelters whom the army chief believes those people should be using guns and not stones so that he knows how to deal with them. Headline number 4. Kashmir could well be the most militarized zone in the world. We have heard all kinds of theories, all kinds of rhetoric being offered in Kashmir. What's the ground reality? The ground reality is that just like what we've been seeing in West Bank, in Gaza, there are 7 lakh troops on the ground, only and only to look after one so-called heavily sensitive terrorist den of South Kashmir. 7 lakh troops managing the reality on Kashmir. Is it their job or not? We'll be looking at that question on the program tonight. My only point is, the more I look at these stories, the more I look at how the army is responding, whether it was Major Gogoi or General Bipin Rawat, you would be wrong if you thought that what the army chief was saying was just the army chief's view. It was most certainly not the army chief's view. In fact, I would go one step further and I would say that all that the army chief was doing is that he was articulating the viewpoint of the establishment. It's the establishment, it's the Bharatiya Janata Party, it's the Prime Minister, the BJP President, the top ministers of this government who all believe what is being done in Kashmir is right, that you can incidentally hold on to Kashmir by the might of your gun and not by any political outreach. Right at the beginning of the program, just take a look at how various politicians over these last few months have responded when they have consistently been asked this question, more so since this Human Shield episode, since the month of April. Is the army right in using the kind of tactics which are being used? Just take a look, a good hard look at the statements which have been made by the people who are actually running the political establishment of this country.
So if you tied him to the jeep and escaped so that the entire polling booth doesn't get burned, democracy is not murdered. Nothing else happened. I don't think that there is anything wrong in what he did, considering the circumstances.
One can try and take a moral position on what he did was right or wrong. In a war and in love, everything is fair.
If our soldiers are doing something to protect themselves, how can you denounce that? You cannot.
The entire country is in support of Mr. Major Gogoi. Anybody who has got the national interest at heart will support Major Gogoi.
Yes, indeed, that's the view. That's the view which you have heard from people who matter, people who should be on the ground in Kashmir and maybe thinking in terms of political outreach. But as I said, that's a bad word these days. You can't be using that word. So what is the terminology and the phraseology that I should be using? I thought long and hard about this subject since this has been debated extensively over the last 24 hours. And this is my absolutely direct, clear viewpoint, something which I believe in very, very strongly. You know, folks, I do believe that there is a war which is going on in Kashmir. Let's not kid ourselves. On one side are citizens. These are Indian citizens who are totally opposed to the Indian state. They may have been misled, they may have been provoked, they may well have had a rough equation with the military, with the political establishment, but they remain Indian citizens. Let anyone, anyhow not get away with that reality that we're talking about, Indian citizens. On the other side are our men in uniform, our brave soldiers. If they are attacked by any means, by enemy within or outside, they must have the right to protect themselves. In my view, a human shield being used in these kind of volatile situations perhaps cannot be discouraged, but I do believe that it cannot be celebrated, the manner in which it is being celebrated. If it was just a one-off incident, we can ignore, we can move on. But if it's celebrated and if it becomes some kind of a precedent for future conflict situations, then you are really looking at a very, very dangerous scenario. I believe the Army Chief General Rawat is right in thinking in terms of keeping the morale of his troops high, but in the process he must also be aware of the very basic doctrine of not altering the DNA of the very force he commands. Let's see whether our panelists agree with my viewpoint. The blunt question we're raising tonight is this: has the Army Chief General Bipin Rawat heard Kashmiri sentiments? Is he right when he makes the statements which he has made over these last 24 hours, literally provoking Kashmiri citizens? Full panel joining us: Air Vice Marshal Kapil Kak, well-known defense analyst with very straightforward views; Harinder Baweja, someone who's been traveling extensively across Kashmir, and her paper Hindustan Times has been reporting extensively about the on-ground situation there. Samit Patra is representing the political establishment, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. His views are clear. General Rawat has the pulse of Kashmir. Gauhar Gilani, well-known political commentator, who believes that General Rawat has incidentally muddled the mess which exists in Kashmir. Also joining us, a brave soldier, son of the soil, retired Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad is joining us live as well. Welcome to all of you on the program. As we always do, we begin first with a buzz around where we ask all our panelists, our two lead panelists, to tell us what they think about the topic that we are putting up in 1 minute each. And I can already see that on my social media stream on Periscope, lots and lots of questions coming up. I'll try and take those questions to all our panelists. Let me first begin with you, Harinder Baweja. Since Hindustan Times has been reporting extensively on the ground, it appears that the version which is being put out by the army and what the Hindustan Times reportage is putting out are two very, very different versions. Why do you then believe that General Rawat is being insensitive?
I'm glad you read what Hindustan Times reported. We took the same journey that Farooq Dar took on Major Gogoi's jeep. We traveled the entire 28 kilometers, visited all the villages. What we've heard from the army so far is that it was a life and death situation. In fact, Major Gogoi was also paraded in front of cameras, and he said he had a fraction of a second in which to save 12 lives. Now, our ground report doesn't bear that out, Bhupender. Firstly, if it was a fraction of a second moment decision, where was the need to parade him through multiple villages? There was no stone pelting happening in most of the villages, and our team from the Kashmir Bureau of Hindustan Times went there and did an excellent ground report. Where was the time for Major Gogoi to actually write out a placard saying, "I am a stone pelter," and hanging it around the head of Farooq Dar? And let's remember, Farooq Dar was a person who believed in democracy.
I'll just come to that.
1 minute. He went out and voted. Your question today.
I'll come to that.
Whether General Rawat is hurting Kashmiri sentiments. You cannot parade Kashmiris like animals and then...
I will come to that in our open section of the debate if we move on. Since this is just the introductory comments that I am getting, let me move to General Prasad then. General Prasad, you believe that General Rawat knows what he's talking about, and that if he has made use of the statements which he has made in media interactions, where he says that I wish that these stone pelters had guns in their hands, because if they had guns in their hands, if they're firing at us, if they were using weapons, then I would know how to deal with them. He goes on to say that the Indian army is a very friendly army, but if we are asked to maintain law and order, we must ensure that people are afraid of us. People should be scared of us. In a conflict situation like Kashmir, General Prasad, what is the role of the army? Is the role of the army by hook or by crook to impose so-called democratic practices? To win hearts and minds? What is the role of the Indian army, sir, in a conflict situation like Kashmir?
The role of the Indian army, articulated by all of us, including the present chief of the army staff, is to deal with the terrorists who have created Mahem in Kashmir, who is killing a lot of not only security forces, but a lot of innocent civilians. Let me just make a couple of points, just very briefly, before you open the debate to a larger issues. Bhupen, the country is going through serious security situation today. the army is at crossroads. We've been working in Kashmir ever since independence. We are all the time for the people of Kashmir. We go there for saving them in floods. We go there and saving them in the times of earthquake. We go there and create schools for them, build bridges for them, bring their people into the mainstream here. What is it that the army hasn't done for the people of Kashmir? Today, a state has come when people are throwing stones at the army, whenever army is doing legitimate military operations to eliminate terrorists, gun-wielding terrorists. And when our casualties do occur, they are to be taken away for evacuation for medical treatment. The stone pelters prevent it, and a couple of our soldiers have died because of the stone pelters and not being able to reach the hospitals in time. Otherwise, precious military
So
lives
stone
could have
pelters
been
are
saved.
terrorists. Stone pelters are terrorists.
No,
Jan
I'm
Prasad,
not-
let's be clear.
No,
Sir, because
I'm
at
not-
the very
use-
outset,
don't-
at the very
don't-
outset, I said,
don't
at the very
don't
outset, I
enter
said,
in-
I said,
Bhupen,
I
don't interpolate my English. Don't interpolate my English. Let me speak my English.
No, but you may
army
answer.
chief is
You may choose. You may choose to answer.
I will
agree or
answer.
disagree
I
with
will
me.
answer. I will answer. I will answer your questions very categorically. Please don't reframe my answers into your language. Let me make my language.
Which is?
The language is clear. Those people who are preventing legitimate military operations against terrorists are as much terrorists as those terrorists wielding guns.
Okay.
And therefore they need to be handled in the same way as the militants are handled. I hope it answers your question.
Very good. I'm
Let me
glad
just
you're
tell
saying
one more
it.
point.
One
More point.
Sir,
One last point.
I just want to come to. I just want to come to
one more point. I just want to tell you one more point. No,
Yeah.
about the army chief.
Yes.
Just about the army chief, please.
Sir, quickly.
Today we have a very difficult situation. We have an army chief who has got his eyes and ears to the ground.
Yes.
He knows exactly what captains and majors are expected to do.
I hear
Is
you
that
very
like
clearly.
the
M. Ashok
statement-
General Shankar
Okay.
Prasad is saying if people are interfering in legitimate military operations and they should be handled as terrorists. Would that be your view as well? Are stone pelters, therefore, General Prasad was not letting me rephrase his comment, but let me be direct. Are stone pelters terrorists and therefore...
Let my English be my English.
Fair
please.
enough, fair enough, sir, fair enough. I'm not attributing this to you. I'm asking a question to you, M. Ashok. Are stone pelters terrorists, and therefore if stone pelters are terrorists, what Major Gogoi did and the manner in which Major Gogoi is being celebrated, toasted by the Indian Army, by the Indian Army establishment,
Even
is that
before the inquiry has been completed.
so I just first want to understand, do you agree with this basic approach which is adopted so far by the Indian Army, led by the chief himself?
No, first and foremost, I belong to, in a larger sense, I'm an army family.
Of course, yes.
I wore 40 years, I wore an Air Force uniform. I don't agree with this proposition at all. If the people who are coming in the way of anti-militancy operations, mothers, children, daughters, there are girls interfering with those. Are they terrorists? No. They are disgruntled, expressing convulsions of anger, despair, as a result of denial of basic democratic rights, as a result of being surrounded by... Army has done a great job, I don't deny that. In 1990, Kashmir was lost. It is Army which brought it. But it's not the 1990s today. Yes, situation is pretty bad on the ground, but Bhupen, in 2001, we were losing 4,700 people a year, civilians, military, security forces. Today we are losing 150.
Correct.
I mean, therefore, we can't say that large number have to be there. That's the first point. Secondly, it's back of the insurgency, militancy has been broken. People have come around. All they are demanding, can you please hear our cries?
Sambit Patra.
Can you hear our cries?
Let's hear from the BJP.
No. Secondly, can you please get away from this crisis of not acknowledging that Kashmir is a political problem?
No, but I just want to come back to the statement which has been made by the army chief, and that's the reason why I'm having this program tonight, because I want to really cut through all the rhetoric and I want to focus completely on the points, Sambit, which have been made by the army chief. If I was to put it this way, Sambit, that actually all that's being done by the army chief, General Rawat, is that he's simply towing a line, he's simply espousing a line which is a line of the establishment, and we've just shown how top ministers, country's attorney general, everyone is one. Everyone is united when it comes to supporting Major Gogoi. Is that all that's happened, Sambit?
First and foremost, Bhupen, I would not know what exactly the army chief had said, because none of the channels ran the, none of the channels ran the bite given by the army chief. I gather he has spoken to some journalist.
Yes.
I mean, it was in written, so I have not seen as to what he has said.
He's on court, he's on record. He's on court, he's on record. I'm playing the exact quote, sir.
It's addressed in
yes,
the 8
I have
national
to be extremely, I have to,
every detail
I
is...
have
not denied.
It's
Yeah.
okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. There are a few things that I as a politician has to keep in mind.
Yes.
Number one, he is my army chief, he's our army chief. An army chief is not a political position, and definitely commenting upon the army chief, I believe politicians should refrain from that. And I firmly believe as a BJP spokesperson that when the army chief speaks, he speaks from his height and from his heart and after due application of his mind. He must have applied his mind, thoroughly sensed what is going all around him, and thereafter given a statement. He's not just another politician, or he's not just another analyst. He is the army chief of a huge democracy like India. So naturally, he must have spoken
first you
with a
make
great
the
deal of
army.
responsibility.
First you make the army do a job which is a job of the politicians, and then you say that actually I'm not going to take any position. I'm not going to take any position because the army chief. It's not the army's job to win hearts and minds in Kashmir. The army is not police, Sambit Patra. Why? Air Marshal Kak's question is simple. Is there any possibility of political outreach? Why is political outreach such a bad word today?
I will answer that. See, as far as the issue at hand, that is Kashmir, is concerned, or for that matter of purpose, any problem is concerned, unless we really acknowledge the core of the problem and we take that head on, we would never solve the problem. With all the rhetorics that I have been hearing about Kashmir, and with due respect to Mr. Kak, with whom I have shared a number of diets and whom I love a great deal, respect a great deal, I differ from him over here. The issue is, Mr. Kak said that there is a great deal of disgruntlement, dissatisfaction, alienation, and that's the reason as to why small girls and people are in fact throwing stones. I disagree, because I would like to buy from what Zakir Musa and many others had said in recent videos. They had said that not for the sake of Kashmir, not for the sake of independence of Kashmir, but for the sake of Islam, you have to get indoctrinated and you have to pick up the stone and throw. And that's what is happening in Kashmir. Indoctrination.
That you should
please. You can intervene, but after me, ma'am.
But you should not listen to what Kashmiris are saying. I agree with Vice Marshal Kak. Why are there cries?
You can intervene after I complete.
Simple point being made both by my studio panelists, Sambit. Yes, Sambit, simple point which you are unwilling to accept perhaps is this. Why is a political outreach such a difficult prospect for you today? Why? Why is a political outreach so difficult?
Let me tell you. No, political outreach is not difficult. This government, I mean the previous NDA dispensation also believed in Kashmiriyat, Jamhuriyat and Insaniyat. This government also believes in Kashmiriyat, Jamhuriyat and Insaniyat. When these very people, the separatists, were in fact drowning in this dreaded flood, who was saving them? It was the Indian Army, sir. Who was standing in protection for their children to go to the school? It was the Indian Army, sir. So naturally, please don't demean the Indian Army, saying that the Indian Army does nothing good. Indian Army always wants to buy
That's
peace
not
and
the question at
tranquility
all.
in
Sambit,
Jammu
that's
and
not the
Kashmir,
question
and
at
that's
all.
the core issue.
No, that's not
Army
the core
has
issue.
always
No. I'm sorry, you're still missing the wood for the trees. But let me, since you're unwilling to answer the question, let me just put a graphic which will convince all of you. The exact problem is a political problem. To solve a political problem, we're trying to use military might. Now, the army chief is absolutely right. The army chief, General Rawat, is not a Ram Father. One moment, Sambit, one moment. If we are thinking that General Rawat should be making politically correct statements, we are wrong. He is the chief of the Indian Army. His brief is to do a job which has been given to him by the political establishment. Maybe that's the reason why General Rawat is making the statement that he is making. But what about the ground reality? I keep coming back to the ground reality. Let me just play this graphic for you.
Thank you very much for making that statement.
One moment. Well, yeah, I'm going to make some more very provocative and let me say politically incorrect statements for all the panelists tonight. Let me just play this graphic for you. The epicenter of militancy. And Arinder Bavej has just returned from a long trip there along with their entire team, and we keep reporting from these areas. What exactly is the area that we're talking about? South Kashmir. There's been so much of talk about what's going on in South Kashmir. Anantnag, Kulgam, Pulwama, Shopian, these are the areas that we're talking about. Total population, roughly 25 lakhs. Total number of terrorists, according to latest estimates that we have, is 92. 12 to 15 foreigners. And then you have worst hit areas. Which are the worst hit areas? The worst hit areas are the ones that we just spoke about. Tral, from where all these terrorists, all these so-called terrorists are supposedly coming out. Now, my point is, if we know exactly the geography within which all these terrorists, homegrown or foreign-born militants, if we know where they are, and if the army can think in terms of circling them and smoking them out, going in for the kill, I say, what exactly is being done by the BJP and the PDP who happen to be responsible for that entire state? Gaur Gilani. Samit Patra is unwilling to answer that question on political outreach. Question of political outreach is that one moment, Samit. One moment, Samit. Let me just 10 seconds. Yeah, Gaur Gilani and then Samit. First Gaur and then you, Samit.
Mr. Bhupendra, can you please tell your producer to raise this voice, because I'm not hearing you properly.
Sure.
So, but I will answer. I just heard the crux of your question.
Yeah.
First of all, I just wanted to make a point that is the larger point before coming to your question. That is the leading human rights body, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have described Major Gogoi's action as a war crime. And now Human Rights Watch is saying that what Indian Army Chief has said reflects the criminal leadership in Indian Army. So now, please tell this BJP spokesperson, can they also label Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch as Pakistan sympathizers getting money from Pakistan? So this is, and I agree with the point which you made earlier in the beginning of the show. That is, this reflects what Mr. Bipin Rawat has said. It is actually, the army is being used as a political tool for the BJP. The manner in which they sold surgical strikes to win the UP elections, now they are trying to use this muscular and militaristic policy on Kashmir to win the 2019
But may I just counter you also?
So that is the reading on the ground.
Mr. Gilani, may I also counter you? May I also counter you and ask you one simple question? Put yourself in the shoes of Major Gogoi. Now, you have a situation where the Indian army, of course, it represents the might of the Indian state. It becomes a symbol of the Indian state. So, those Kashmiris who are upset with the Indian state start thinking in terms of attacking the army, much like what they've done with paramilitary forces earlier. If Major Gogoi took an action, if he took an action which led to a scenario where no loss of human life was there, then don't you think we also need to give him benefit of doubt, perhaps? I'm saying don't hail him. I'm saying don't hail him. Don't celebrate it.
You also have to. You also have to understand. Let me put a counter question to you.
Yes.
Let me put a counter question to you. How many of the panelists would like to put themselves in the shoes of Farooq Dar and be ready to are prepared to be used as a human shield and paraded through scores of villages and being inflicted a psychological impact?
Let's hear from
Are you ready to be that and then justify Mr. Gogoi's actions?
Samit Patra.
That will be my counterpoint.
Let's
and number two, Mr. Harinder Baweja would agree with me. There barring some sections of the Indian print media like Indian Express, The Outlook and Hindustan Times who did put up a version of Farooq who was not a stone pelter, and even if he were a stone pelter, he did not deserve this shameful treatment.
If he was a stone pelter, I'm in agreement with General Shankar Prasad.
And ankles are still hurting.
If he was a stone pelter, then I'm in agreement with General Prasad. Treat him like a terrorist. But if he's not, Sambit. Since the BJP is trying to raise a nationalistic rhetoric here and trying to suggest that anyone who's questioning what's going on in Kashmir is anti-national, how do you respond to Gaur Gilani then? That how many of us would think in terms of tying ourselves up on the bonnet of a jeep and be used as a human shield?
Bhupendra, I wanted to come.
Thankfully, we are being treated as nationalists. Thankfully, in fact, I don't subscribe to what Mr. Gaur Gilani said right now. He said that Indian Army's criminal leadership. I don't think any sane thinking Indian would ever subscribe to that kind of praise. I did not speak in the middle.
Come on,
can I ask the anti-nationals to allow me to speak?
We need to correct.
I did not intervene when the anti-nationals were speaking. Allow the nationalists to speak. Allow the nationalists to speak. I was not speaking when you were all speaking.
Go ahead.
Exactly. Thank you. Some of you may feel not you, Bhupen, but some of the others may feel that the Indian army today is led by a criminal, right now pointed out by one Mr. Gohar Gilani.
No, he's not saying that.
He called me nationalist.
No, he's not saying that. I'll not let anyone use the word criminal to describe the Indian army chief.
Criminal, I wrote it down. Criminal leadership of Indian army.
What does it
mean by criminal leadership of Indian army?
The Human Rights Watch. The Human Rights Watch. Gaur, I'm assuming that's not your view.
Obviously not. He quoted the Human Rights
This
Watch.
is Human Rights Watch statement and Amnesty International.
So let's come back to facts. So let's come back to facts.
And violation of Geneva Convention.
So let's come back to facts. Okay.
Secondly, yes, I'm thankful that you called me nationalist. At least I don't concur with Gohar Gilani, and this time he cannot escape when he calls Major Gogoi as a war criminal. As a war criminal. He is so concerned about the one stone pelter who was tied in front of the jeep. He is concerned about the
He's not a stone pelter.
Of that
He's not a stone pelter. Please read newspapers.
Poor stone pelter.
Why are you lying on television?
Thousands of our I did not speak in between you, Mr. Gohar.
Please mind your language. Please watch your words.
Stones in the middle.
You are exposing yourself.
Let's not stones in the middle. Allow me to complete.
Yes,
I did not pelt stones in the middle of you.
Okay,
no, please be mindful of the language you are using.
Why do you intervene then?
No, hold on. Let's not, please. It's a serious subject. Yes, Sambit, complete your point.
See, Mr. Gohar Gilani and the likes are so concerned about the ankle pain of one stone pelter, but they're not concerned.
But Harinder Baweja is saying he's not a stone pelter. Is he a stone pelter?
We went
oh my
God.
He is a stone pelter.
1 minute, can I speak now? Why are you intervening?
The credibility of Baweja or credibility of Gilani is far less than the credibility of the army chief.
I don't need my certificate from you.
He is a stone pelter. I believe
we don't need certificates from
Gohar Gilani's credibility need not be taken into account.
Issue certificates.
We don't need certificates from the government. Keep your certificates with you.
Let's
not. I don't need certificate from terrorists and Pakistanis.
We are having a serious discussion.
We're getting into personal domain.
Keep your certificates in your.
Let's not make personal.
I don't need them.
Can I just make one point?
Yeah, don't use this language. Watch your words.
Sure. Sambit, complete your point.
I just want to complete my point of view.
Go ahead, Sambit.
He cannot talk forever.
Sambit.
Mr. Chaubey?
Yes, ma'am. I'm coming to you. Sambit. Complete your point, Sambit, then I'll go to the others.
As far as this political solution about which you had asked me is concerned, what is the political solution? Ask any of these Gilanis, Gohar Gilanis and other Gilanis, the separatists, they would say the political solution is autonomy or independence. Remember, on the national television channel I say thus, the might of this country, the might of the army of this country is so that you can never even dream of independence or autonomy. Don't dream of that. Don't you dare to dream of that. You will never get independence. A handful of Kashmiris can never dare the might of India to be independent.
The word you're using, Sambit, is handful of Kashmiris. General Prasad. You know, I'm looking at facts. And these are facts according to the Jammu and Kashmir police. I'm coming to you, General Prasad, I'm coming to you only. 282 militants supposed to be active in 10 districts. 112 militants from South Kashmir. These are the numbers that we're talking about. Why is it so difficult for us, sir, to deal with 112 anti-national terrorists, whatever you want to call them? Because we're looking at the entire definition of Indian democracy only through the eyes of what the army managed to do with this bunch.
The answer in one sentence to your specific question is because these are the people who are being supported and helped by those local people who are, I don't want to call them terrorists, but supporters of terrorism. It is not very difficult for the army to Can I answer, Bhupen? Bhupen, can I answer, please?
Sir, go ahead.
Bhupen, please don't interfere.
Sir, I'm not interfering. Go ahead.
You don't ask me.
Complete your point, sir. Complete your point.
Please tell your panelists to keep quiet for a moment.
Yes, sir. Complete your point. I'll come back to
the army is competent to deal with these people, provided in an insurgency the local population is not supporting them. If the local population of South Kashmir, which numbers 29,000 or something that you said just now, is going to harbor them, provide them logistic supports and cover them up by stone pelting, I'm sorry, the Indian army cannot do their job.
Why is he
the
wrong?
Indian army then has to take a hard step. Let me just complete, Bhupen. Let me just complete, Bhupen.
Okay, sir, I'm running out of time, that's why. Yeah, okay. Sir, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
If you think the army is not the instrument of the nation to do it, Why are you using the army to do it?
Fair
Army
point.
doesn't
I
use
will
pellet guns,
answer.
That's a fair
army
point.
shoots to kill. Use police and do that whatever you want to do. You want to lose Kashmir, you want to lose southern Kashmir, it's your choice.
Would you
I have
support
no role
bullets
to
for
play in
stone
it.
pelters? General Prasad, you're a decorated
course, yes.
soldier. Are you saying, if you say
Yes.
that stone pelters, people who are
Yes.
interrupting legitimate army action,
Yes.
should weapons be used to deal with those
Yes.
stone pelters? Should we be using guns?
Yes.
Yes, Sambit
Don't
says
use
yes.
the army against the stone pelter. No. Don't use the army against stone pelters because army doesn't have pellet guns. Army has one rifle, 5.56 or AK-47, and they are shot to kill with one round, one man.
No, General
If
Shankar,
you
Why is it
want
wrong?
the army
No, I
to
want
use,
first- May I
no,
speak?
one
May I
minute.
speak?
If you want the
I'm
army to
coming,
be
I'm coming.
used,
No,
army will kill.
If
Don't
army is
use
to
the
be
army.
used, army will
Don't
kill.
use the army.
So either take us out, either take the
Of
army
course,
out,
yeah.
or be ready for consequences.
Take the police.
Bhupen,
Take the
Bhupen,
police.
Yeah.
I've just come back from Srinagar. Your question was, has Gogoi's action hurt the sentiments of Kashmiris? I have talked, our delegation talked to hundreds of Kashmiris, including all political parties and their leaders. And the unanimous view is our sentiments are very deeply hurt because we, as it is, are under the coercive apparatus of the security forces, no movement forward in politics. I want to make one quick point. The situation in South Kashmir I visited last year during the time Burhan Wani was killed. It was far worse than it's today. And that time the army wasn't there in South Kashmir. They stayed back. Do you know, of the 100 people who died in that agitation, only 3 casualties were because of the army. So army stayed back. I don't know.
Sambit. Let me just hear from Harinder and come to you.
I don't know why the army has been inducted when the
But
only
the army is there. Therefore, Harinder, let me, if I hear
can't
all of you
use the
right,
army against
I'm in agreement with General Prasad. If the army is there, and if there is stone pelting, which takes place,
they can't work.
what do you expect the army to
You're
do?
going to open fire on stone pelters?
What do you expect the army to do then?
No, excuse
They shouldn't
me.
be
The
there.
army is not the
Should be
Thanedar,
police.
na?
But you don't expect the army to violate human rights violations either. Why was Farooq Dar treated
Don't use
like
the
an
army,
animal?
madam.
Why is the
Why
army
have you got
chief
the army
speaking
there?
like a
Use police.
politician? Why has Major Gogoi
Use the
been
police.
honoured when the inquiry has still not been completed? Why
Because
are
he's
we
done a
not
great
telling our
job.
viewers?
He's been honored because he's done a great job.
See,
But
he's
there's
done a
an
great job.
inquiry on, sir. And let me tell you,
Let that
Mr.
inquiry
Gogoi
go
we
on.
and
We
General
don't
Dyer
answer.
of Kashmir.
Kulbhushan
He's
Jadhav,
likened to General
but we are
Dyer,
guilty
who was
of
responsible
contravening
for the
the civil
Jallianwala
law.
Bagh massacre.
But I'd like to remind General Prasad
It's an
that one of
illegal,
his
immoral act. You cannot use human
one of
shields.
his
You
own
will pay a
army
price.
commanders, who was commander, Northern
Bhupen,
Command
all right,
of
Mr.
Red,
Bhupen,
can I come in?
General
Yeah, one
Panag
minute.
said army will never live down the shame of this stone pelting incident. General Panag, an army commander
will haunt
of
me.
Northern Command.
I agree. It has.
I mean,
He's got
I
his
think
view.
we need to be a little
He's
more
got a view. What's the
sensitive.
problem?
Is he? The view is split down the middle. There's no doubt about
Mr.
that.
Bhupen, can I come in for a
Yeah,
minute?
God, yeah. Okay,
But
God,
why
you
is
wanted
it
to
split
make
down
it.
the middle? What is
Yeah, yeah.
legal about using a human
Yeah,
shield?
my point is, you know,
does your channel
the manner in
believe
which
in
Mr. Sambit
illegality?
Patra was
I'll
speaking.
just come- I'll just
you know,
come to
what is his
what I
take
want to say.
on
Yeah, one
what
minute. Let me hear from
Lieutenant
God.
General retired Mr. Panag said when he sent out a tweet in which he said the image of Farooq being tied to an army jeep will haunt India and Indian army forever. What is his view for General Panag? Is he also a Pakistan sympathizer and getting money from the ISI?
No.
It is an
Sambit.
individual
And
who's got
second
his own
point which I
of
wanted
view.
to
Let him
make
have his
is
point
that
of
Mr.
view.
Gogoi right now in Kashmir is being likened
No,
to
let
General
General
Dyer.
Panag have his
So
point of
this
view,
is
it's
India's
fine.
continued policy of
People have their
being
own
muscular
points of
and
views.
using the
But you know,
colonial
Sambit
language
Patra, what
and
is
colonial
troubling me?
mindset to deal
Sambit,
with Kashmir
Sambit.
and treat Kashmir as an enemy territory and the people of Kashmir as
I can't
enemies.
think like
What
General
is-
Panag.
one moment, one moment,
you know,
one moment, one
Someone
moment,
from the
one
army was
moment.
saying
One
that
moment. God,
entire
one
population,
moment.
local population
my
is
next
supporting the
question is
rebels.
Sambit. My
So
next
then
question
there
is
is a
Sambit.
question why they are supporting.
My next
So that
question
is
is
the
Sambit.
introspection that New
One
Delhi
moment.
needs to do.
Yes,
That why are locals
introspection
supporting
needs to be
rebels
done
and
at
not Indian
multiple
army?
levels.
Because there is a political problem and Kashmiris want a
One
political
okay.
solution according to their
Fair enough.
aspirations.
Political solution,
Bhupendra,
political
one minute.
reach.
The BJP and the PDP are in alliance, right?
Yes. So they should
They
be
can
looking for a
work
solution.
together. Why are they hiding behind the army?
You know,
Why
Sambit.
is the army being left to fight what General Rawat calls a dirty war? Where is the political outreach?
Who created the dirty war?
We
Sambit
muddied
Patra, who
the
created the
waters.
dirty war?
We
Lack
muddied the waters.
of political outreach to
Can
the
I
Kashmiris
please-
over the last 8
Yes,
years.
Sambit.
Complete
Sambit,
stoppage of dialogue
who
is
should
what
be
has
held
created
How do
this
I
responsible
situation.
for
speak
this?
if others?
Yeah, I'm asking
How
you.
do I speak if others don't allow you to
Don't worry,
speak?
don't worry, don't worry, don't
Thank
worry.
you.
I'm the moderator.
Well,
I'm
you
asking you.
interrupted us already.
Thank you.
I'm asking you, Sambit. I'm asking you. who is responsible to quote, again to quote General Rawat, that there's a dirty war. I want to know who's responsible for this dirty war. Are citizens of Kashmir responsible? Lack of political outreach responsible? Or is it that favorite enemy for everything, Pakistan? Is it just Pakistan which is responsible for this?
So there are a number of issues which are responsible for this. Number one, let's do away by saying that there is a sense of alienation or political outreach is not there, because they don't want development out there. If you say that we are here to develop your roads, we are here to develop your schools, we will see to it that education receives a center stage, then they would say we don't need this, we need independence. That is the core issue that they want, which we cannot give. Number two, then who are the ones?
Have a dialogue and understand whether that's
Number
what
one,
they want. Have a
did I
dialogue
speak
first.
when these people were speaking?
Why don't
Please
complete
yeah.
my sentence.
Sure, complete your point, Samit.
Number two,
yeah.
And who are the ones who are stirring the pot? Well, yes, Pakistan is definitely one component. Then we have the sleeper cells in India, and we have the separatists, and we have the peaceniks, definitely. This Aman Ki Asha Wala Cottage Brigade, who have their own whiskeys, scotches, and red wine sipping industry in the evening, and they do this. But at the end, at the end, let me tell you, I respect Admiral Kark, but remember when Admiral Kark and Manishankar Iyer went to Gilani,
1,000 kilometers, admirals are 30 kilometers an hour.
When Mr. Kark went to Gilani's place along with Manishankar Iyer, remember that famous video where Gilani was saying, "Aapne to Kashmir pe apne army se kabza kiya hua hai?" Then these people were laughing, ha 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 ha. There are two kinds of people, the people who are with Gilani and the people who would not let go Kashmir.
But I would believe that you are, when you were speaking to a soldier, like Air Marshal Kark, I would believe that we would show him at least that much respect.
I mean, only taken part in two wars.
He too has done his bit for the country, as you, me and others may have done.
Shambit probably was in shots, maybe not even born.
I agree, and if I was the Lok Sabha speaker, I would have expunged that comment.
Not acceptable, Shamit, from you.
But why do you speak against the army chief?
But be that
I'm doing my job.
How can you criticize the army chief by the same logic?
General Prasad, I just want to come back to you for something which has been troubling.
You should not be criticizing the army chief by the same logic.
General Prasad.
I'm not criticizing the army chief. I'm saying his actions have hurt.
You know what is troubling me, General Prasad, is this. And it's coming from the point that you just made. If you keep the army,
ask any political
leader. One moment, if you keep the army in Kashmir, if you keep the army in Kashmir, the army will deal with this situation. Can you hear me now, sir? Can you hear me now? I'm saying, I'm just taking off from the point. Yeah, just the point that you were making, General Prasad, that if you keep the army in Kashmir, the army will deal with the situation in a manner the army knows. Let me put up this situation before you, and this is a situation which bothers me, which concerns me greatly. If there is no political outreach, tomorrow if there is a situation, sir, where the mother / sister / daughter of a so-called alleged stone pelter or alleged terrorist, if that individual is caught by the army, and if the army wishes to get hold of information about the so-called stone pelter / terrorist by this woman, would you also support then roughing up measures, anything? Because once you go down that slippery slope, if a human shield is acceptable, tomorrow you'll say even that is acceptable.
No.
Innovative means.
Don't take it to that level.
Why, sir?
I'm answering or someone else is answering on my behalf?
No, you're answering, sir.
Yes. The army has its own intelligence setup in every unit level. They have ways and means to cultivate their intelligence sources. Only when a hard intelligence is available, like it happened 2 days ago, when Bhatt was surrounded and killed, there was hard intelligence on him. Somebody came and brought that intelligence. Nobody was hurt, nothing happened to anybody. The army at unit level develops tactical intelligence. The strategic intelligence is developed by other intelligence agencies, which is provided.
What do we want to discuss?
Who is asking to stop
you may see the relevance. I'm answering.
Again, facts are being
I'm answering your question.
Yes,
70 people were injured, one civilian was killed, and he's saying nothing happened.
Go ahead, General Prasad. I want to know what has been achieved by parading this fellow, by parading Mr. Dar on the bonnet of a jeep for 5 hours. What has been achieved by the army, sir?
Further alienation.
Good question.
And a terrible
Millions,
projection of
hundreds of
Indian
lives have been
interest
saved.
abroad.
Hundreds lives have been saved.
Is someone else asking? Is someone else asking on behalf?
No, you're answering.
You ask me a question,
yes,
I will answer.
Go ahead.
My answer is
he had a fraction of a second to make a decision.
One moment.
My answer to your question.
Yes, General Prasad.
Multiple villages.
General Prasad.
My answer to your specific question is, he has saved a large number of lives to start with.
There are only
15,
12
16
people.
elections.
There are only 12 people.
Oh, 12 people, yaar, come on.
But sir, why
12
parade
people
him
lives
for
will
5
be dead.
hours? Can you answer that question?
These people
I'm
are worried about
answering
the angle of
Bhupendra's
the
question.
Parade him for
I'm
5
asking-
hours.
concerned about the life.
There are other ways
I
to
just
save
think-
12
Why
lives.
What
parade him
mindset?
for 5
I just think, Harinder
Bhupen,
Paveja and all
ask me
my
a question,
panelists.
I will answer.
Quickly, sir, I'm running out of time now. General
Your
Prasad.
question.
What has been achieved? You
But
say
let me
lives.
tell all three of you.
You
You
say
are not
lives have
getting
been saved.
independence, madam.
You say
You are not
lives
getting
have been
independence of
saved.
Kashmir.
You say lives
Who is he
have been
talking
saved.
to?
You
Which
say
madam?
lives. You say lives have been saved.
I am saying lives have been saved, yes.
Okay, so that's so. In your view, what was done was right. What General Prasad has done, according to you,
Absolutely.
he has done with his ears to the ground. But General Prasad, when I ask you if this was to be repeated again tomorrow, maybe in some other more innovative way, which way India will respond? How will you and I look at that situation, sir? Is something which concerns me.
More innovative ways.
More innovative
ways to
ways.
fight a dirty war.
Well,
Can I-
okay.
can I-
To fight
If
a
the
dirty war.
If
Can I
the,
just
yeah,
conclude?
Samit,
worried
30
about
seconds to you.
the
Final
army's
comments.
image,
Final
which is
word to you,
taking a
Samit.
real beating with
Samit.
Yeah. See, I was extremely close to KPS Gill. You know, he has only passed out about 4 days ago. And let me tell you, when KPS Gill was in uniform, similar questions had haunted him. But today we salute KPS Gill for the kind of thing that he has done. Well, yes, he was in police, he was not in army.
Okay.
Today we may be having number of questions about the Indian army chief. But when the tomorrow would be a bright, sunny tomorrow, we would all salute the Indian army and the present Indian dispensation for what they have done.
On that note, Sambit Patra and all my panelists, thank you so much for joining us on Viewpoint. I've got one clear answer tonight on this program, and that's typically has come from General Prasad, who believes that if stone pelters, anyone who's involved, any person who comes in between a legitimate military action should be treated like a terrorist, and if it means bullets for that individual, then so be it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. General Rawat has said that, and now if that's the overwhelming view which exists within the military establishment,
things will only get worse.
then
You'll
things
have more dirty
will
wars,
only
more
get worse.
incidents of this nature.
Dirty war. Who is going to complete? Who's going to complete this? Who's going to finish off this dirty war? Who is there thinking of this political outreach? Is there anyone out there? The jury's still out on that one. Let's do a short break. On the other side, who's the hero, villain, and ridiculous of the day? Am I creating a greatly anti-national act if I was to raise this question that the statements which have been made by the Indian Army Chief, could that position him as a villainous character in the Kashmir Valley across India? Is that even possible for us to think? Let's see what you, the viewer, thinks. Answers on the other side of the short break. Welcome back. Let's look at who's our hero, villain, and ridiculous of the day. Has this massive outrage which has erupted post the statements which have been made by the army chief, has that sullied that reputation, that image of our brave army or not? The hero of the day is not that group which believes in using these innovative ways such as human shields. The hero of the day today is that section of our brave paramilitary forces, the CRPF, or anyone else who continues to face the odds but yet ensures that by their actions our belief in Indian democracy continues to stay afloat. All of you for not losing your cool, staying calm and not using these innovative ways, you sir are the hero of the day. Who's the villain of the day? The villain of the day is a rather interesting choice. He's a man who's supposed to be a heartthrob of sorts, but Hrithik Roshan now being accused of having walked away with land which was meant for an orphanage along with his father. They've built illegal structure on that land for cheating the tax authorities, the revenue authorities, the land authorities. Hrithik Roshan, villain of the day. And who's the ridiculous of the day? The ridiculous of the day, again an interesting choice, and this time a politician. Swati Singh, who decides to go and inaugurate a beer bar in a state where women are openly protesting against liquor vends, and Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath wants the entire state to go dry. Swati Singh, minister there, ridiculous for inaugurating a beer bar. That's it then from me. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, think about what we discussed. Think about our viewpoint. Goodbye.
We are exposed today Abdurrahman Makki.
Credit goes to jihad.
He is giving some views that I left Pakistan because of jihadi pressure. I can tell them, no, I did not leave because of jihadi pressure.
What we just heard on your channel is shocking and outrageous.
Footage was taken notice by the senior officials of the Pakistan government.